All right, so here we're looking at angles in parallel lines. Now, just a reminder, parallel lines are lines a bit like this. They're signified by little arrows on the lines, and they show that those lines go on forever and ever and never touch. They're always the same distance apart. And there are certain rules for the angles in parallel lines if you have a line crossing them. So I've got three pictures here because I'm going to show you the three rules. The first rule I'll talk about is what you might know as Z angles. That's not the proper expression for them, that's just a way of remembering what they are. The reason we call them Z angles is because they form a kind of Z. So if I draw this angle here and here, they kind of make a Z, you know, with the lines coming like this. And the proper phrase, they're not Z angles, they are alternate angles. And they're called alternate angles because they are on alternate sides of the line that crosses the parallel lines. So this diagonal line here, we have an angle on the left side, an angle on the right side. They're on alternate sides, and those angles are the same. So if I told you that one of them was 72 degrees, the other one would be 72 degrees as well. Quick thing though, sometimes they don't look like a Z. So this angle here is an alternate angle with this one down here. So they're kind of a Z, but it's more like a stretched out Z rather than a proper looking Z. So that's the first rule. Alternate angles, they're on alternate sides of the line that crosses the parallel lines, and they are the same. Our second rule is if I have an angle here and here, the kind of letter that they make is an F. They're sometimes called F angles, but again, that's just a reminder for how to spot them because they make an F. That's not the proper word for them. The proper word is corresponding. And they're corresponding because they are in exactly the same place on the same line. If you shifted one down that diagonal line, it would lie right on top of the other one because they correspond. They're kind of the same. And actually, that's the rule. Those angles are the same. So again, if I tell you that one of them is 100 degrees, the other one is also 100 degrees. But just like the other example, it doesn't always look like an F. For example, this angle with this one, those are also corresponding. And so is this angle with this angle. So that's the one in turquoise there is like a backwards F. But all of those angles that I've coloured there, they're all corresponding with each other, and the purple one is the same as the purple one. The red one's the same as the red one. And the final rule, you might know as C angles. These are sometimes called co-interior, but calling them interior angles in parallel lines is fine. And the rule's different for this one, they're not the same. But let's look at how they look. Here is my sort of C shape. You see that this part of my parallel lines makes a kind of C. And we can see that those angles aren't the same. The rule is they add to 180. They add up to 180 degrees. So if I told you that one of them is 80, the other one's 100. And again, like all the other examples, sometimes it doesn't look quite like that. You could have a backward C like this. They're called interior because they're kind of inside parallel lines. They're like inside the C shape, inside the parallel lines, and they add up to 180. One other rule that's often useful to remember is that angles on a straight line add up to 180. That's not unique to parallel lines, but it is often useful in questions like this. Let's see if I can do you a little example. Here are some parallel lines, which I'll put little arrows on to show you that they're parallel. And there's a line that crosses them. I'm going to tell you that this angle up here is going to be 80. And I would like to know what, let's do this. I want to know what this angle is. Well, those are corresponding angles. Those are, the question mark is in exactly the same place on the parallel lines as the 80, just shifted down a little bit. They correspond with each other, which makes that angle 80. What other angle could I find? Let's say I want something harder. What if I wanted this angle over here? Well, now it's going to take a couple of steps. I might need to use that fact that angles on a straight line add up to 180 to work out what this angle is. That angle is going to have to be 100 because 80 plus 100 makes 180. And now I've got that 100, I can jump straight to what the question mark is because those are alternate. They are on alternate sides of the line that crosses the parallel lines. And because they're alternate, they are the same. So they're both 100 degrees. So that's how it kind of works. But here I've got three examples, which if you like, you can pause the video and have a go at. But but I'm going to talk them through anyway, just for some more practice. So if you'd like, you can pause the video. Otherwise, just leave it playing as I talk through. Right, so our first question here, we're looking at this 110 degrees and this angle here. Now, the angle I'm looking at is on the alternate side of the diagonal. So they're alternate angles, which means it's 100 degrees because it's the same as the other. Oh, sorry, that says 110. It's 110 degrees because it's the same as the angle I've been given because they are alternate. That's my reason. It's alternate to 110 degrees. My second question is going to take a little more work because I can't jump straight from this 115 to what this missing angle is. But a bit like our example we did on the top right there, I can work out what this angle is because it's on a straight line with 115. So if I do 180, take away 115, I get 65. So that angle is 65 degrees. And now I've got that angle, I can jump straight to this one because they're corresponding. And because they're corresponding, they're the same, so that's 65. And my reason would be, my first sort of rule that I've used is angles on a straight line, add to 180. And my second rule I've used is that the question mark, the one I'm looking for, is corresponding this time. And it's corresponding because it's in the same position on the, in our diagram, it's in the same position as the other 65 that I worked out previously. So that's why this final angle has to be 65. And my final example, sorry, I haven't labeled these quite well. These should have arrows on them because they're parallel. And this angle in here is interior with the 81. So that's our last rule up here, C angles. They're in a kind of C shape. They add to 180, so I just need to do 180, take away 81, which is 99, because interior angles add up to 180 in parallel lines. So that's angles in parallel lines. You've got alternate angles, which are on alternate sides of the diagonal. You've got corresponding angles, which are in the sort of corresponding position, like they look like the same angle because they're in the same direction and stuff. You've then got interior angles, which you might know as C angles. They add up to 180. And that's angles in parallel lines. I hope that's been helpful.